On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Swallowed by Hell by Morbid Saint. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it.
I like how you said the title of this week's album.
Swallowed by Hell.
Dun, dun, dun.
I really went for it.
Yeah.
Morbid Saint is an American thrash metal band. Also, kind of considered a death metal band a little bit. Right. Came up multiple times on reviews and their Wikipedia page. I don't know if I would have called them as such. No. Just based on this listen. Like they're definitely on the extreme end of thrash metal, but I don't know if it's enough to call them a death metal band in my book anyway. I suppose they're in relatively similar territory to like Seven Churches by Possessed,
right?
A little bit. Like it's not ultimately that different, I guess. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Right. This is 37 years later.
Yeah. Back in 1990, they made an album called Spectrum of Death that is apparently considered one of the best, or I guess it was 1989, but apparently considered one of the best thrash metal albums ever by some people. Enough so that it's undisputed on their Wikipedia page. Not that means a ton for a smaller, for a relatively smaller band like this, who probably don't have people like rigorously fact checking their Wikipedia page.
Right.
But it's a sentiment I saw repeated in a couple of reviews where people talk about, as far as the more extreme end of thrash, that album is one of the best ever. Which I'm no expert. I don't know that I had heard of these guys specifically before you said we were going to listen to them, because there's two bands that my brain gets confused with, which is Armored Saint and Morbid Angel.
Those are very different.
Yeah, two very different bands. But my brain hears Morbid Saint and gets all confused. But we'll talk more about the album later on. First, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good.
I got my car out of jail.
Yeah, your Volkswagen, which I keep forgetting you still have possession of.
And by the way, if you're listening and you want to buy a Volkswagen for real cheap, just talk to me.
If you want to buy a Volkswagen, if you're desperate for a car,
yes. This is definitely a car.
It's a car, and sometimes it runs.
It always runs, almost, except in the winter.
It always runs if you can get it started.
Yes.
If it can run, it'll run. But if it can't run,
it won't run.
It won't run.
Yeah.
And if it's colder than say 5 degrees above Fahrenheit, it won't run.
Well, the problem is that the way the Germans engineered this the starter system, you have to be this is like all cars now. You have to be depressing the brake in order for the car to start. Well, in this, the way they did it, it relies on a certain amount of air pressure still in the brake system.
Yes.
To press down the sensor to let the car turn over.
But when it's extremely cold,
the air contracts.
Yeah.
And therefore you press on the brake and the sensor doesn't get pushed.
Yeah. And therefore you cannot start the car.
Right.
And get where you need to go. Or maybe you're in a survival situation and you want to start your car so you can warm up.
Right.
Too bad.
TFB. You can.
I feel like that's one of those glaring design issues that only comes up when you take the car out of a specific like environment it was designed in.
Yeah, Germany.
I mean, it gets cold in Germany. It doesn't get that cold in Germany.
Yeah, and that really all happens when it's 10 below. 10 below and colder.
But here in North Dakota, that's just fucking Tuesday for 4 months out of the year.
It's 10 below now.
I wish it was 10 below now. Jesus Christ.
Didn't get to 100 today.
It didn't. They were thinking it might, but...
it got to... Let's see what it is now. Right now, it is 95 degrees Celsius.
We are on the verge of death. We're actively on fire. It's been 90s, and it's also it's way too humid. It's very humid outside. When I was on my walk home from work, the whole time I was going, ugh. Like I was making, I like couldn't stop myself from making a face the entire time. And it just felt gross.
And you live like a block away.
Yeah. So the air is just gross. And the fact that the air is full of fucking wildfire smoke doesn't help.
Right. It's damp and smoky.
It's how
I like my women.
Damp and smoky. It's bad.
You should like in my building, because all of the doors in my building, I don't know where they got these discount doors, but if it gets too humid, they're like sponges. So you'll hear all day and all night. Anytime somebody's shutting a door, they're slamming it. The doors are constantly being slammed.
Oh wow!
And it was great last night though.
Yeah,
last night was fun.
Why was last night fun?
Because I took my 13-year-old to a concert.
Oh, just what was great last night though? Like
just
the temperature
in the stands was perfect. Okay, the breeze.
I thought you were talking about the door conditions being great last night, because you immediately went into that, and I was like, why were the Doors great last night?
Yeah, because we went to go see the Doors.
You went to go see the Doors.
Yeah.
They performed Break On Through and all their other...
They broke on through from the other side. Both Ray Manzarek and Jim Morrison.
From the other side of the grave. You went to Lil Wayne last night. I went to go see
Lil Wayne. Yeah, my son was like, Dad, I want to go see Lil Wayne. I'm like, all right.
Sure,
why not?
And how was that?
Let's just say he was 2 hours late.
Yeah.
That's first of all. So my son and
seemingly through no fault of his own.
No, because the airline, it was airline bullshit.
Yeah. Again,
right.
Shouldn't have flown Delta.
So, and here's the thing, because we were waiting 2 hours, I had a couple of hot dogs. He had a couple of batches of fries, and I was slightly drunk by the time Lil Wayne.
Because you'd been waiting for too long.
Waiting for 2 hours. I'm gonna go get another beer, and but it was
$200 later.
Yeah,
State Fair concessions and alcohol.
Yeah. And he did say a phrase that I want to start using right before his final song.
Please say it for me.
What was it?
I can't remember it.
I said it to you this morning.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is either.
Any of y'all that have minds, you're about to lose that motherfucker.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm like, I love that. That's great.
Pretty good. That is pretty good. But yeah, I feel like there's probably a lot of people who are less than pleased that not only was the concert delayed in the first place.
Yeah, by 2 days or 3 days.
By 3 days. But also... then he was that late. But again, through no fault of his own.
Right.
Just fucking airlines being shitty. The performance is apparently a bit short.
It was 50 minutes. Well, see,
yeah.
The reason I think people saw it as being, I mean, that's standard concert length.
Yeah.
But the reason people thought it was short, because compared to the amount of time they had to fucking stand there.
Exactly.
It was short. You had to stay there for 3 hours.
I feel like State Fair performances also tend... It seems like those tend to go a bit longer. I don't know. Like the grandstand, like earlier in the day, the guy that was supposed to play Wednesday afternoon was Sawyer Brown.
They did play.
And he did play, but
it's a band.
Yes, the band. But anyway, they played, and that performance went for an hour and a half.
Really? Well, they got 4 decades worth of material.
Yeah, that's true. They have a lot of material. They even played like a Toby Keith song at one point.
Nice. And how Toby feels about that.
I don't know. Could you do an impression of him for me? There we go.
All right. Yeah.
All right, cool. He did the thing. If you don't know what the thing is,
yeah.
Anyway, I was there at the fair for work.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing live broadcasts from the fair just for a couple hours, like every other day. And Sawyer Brown had rescheduled. Was supposed to play in the Lil Wayne slot for Wednesday.
Right.
Because Lil Wayne was originally supposed to perform on Saturday night.
Right.
But all of the airlines in the world couldn't fly planes over the weekend because of the CrowdStrike outage. And so that obviously had to be delayed. So Sawyer Brown apparently very graciously volunteered to move to a time slot in the afternoon that happened to coincide exactly with when my live broadcast was going to start.
Yeah, they're all in their 70s, so they're thinking, "Oh, we don't have to stay up past bedtime."
Fuck. Great,
and
awesome.
And here's the thing: I was on the business end of that broadcast because I was running the board, and there was at least one break in there where it was wind and 6 days on the road by Sawyer Brown, and then somewhere in there was you.
Yeah. And I was competing with so many different fucking things. Like it was so windy. I had nowhere to set all of the shit that we need. Like
the clipboard, the bag,
got a bunch of bullshit radio that we got to carry with, and information that I needed to look at and reference. And nowhere to put it down where it's not going to get fucking blown away, and nowhere to sit that's in the shade that isn't close to the grandstands. Because also, I don't want to be that far away from the main drag because we had tickets to give away. And if I'm out in the ass end of nowhere on the fairgrounds, people aren't going to fucking find me to give them the tickets.
When I give my tickets away, it was by the KX Information Center.
Yeah.
That's where it was.
That's eventually where like I went down past Commercial One and eventually like found a spot. It was still in front of the grandstands, so the concert was very loud, but at the very least it was more or less out of the wind.
Right.
And I was trying to stay in the shade and actually sit on a bench. I only was in two spots. I just went from bench to bench because I do not have the mental bandwidth to be able to move from place to place to place to place throughout a live broadcast. I would have died if I would have died of sheer anxiety. I would have had a massive anxiety attack if I had forced myself to get up and move between every break.
See, I did that. I mapped out where it was going to be on the fairgrounds.
I cannot do that.
Then I made sure my last break was near the exit.
Yeah. I already had all these other things to compete with that were like completely robbing me of any ability to focus. I don't need a third thing of having to pick all the shit up and move it around as well. So I don't care if the locations for the audio broadcast were not dynamic enough. Like none of the listeners could tell I wasn't fucking moving around.
Right. You could have done it from your car.
Yeah. Like if my personal philosophy for most things is if I don't need to make something more difficult for myself, I'm not going to.
You know what I love to do when I'm doing a live broadcast? At least at one point during the broadcast, I like to make a gesture at something. So if you look over there, you're gonna see. You're
gonna see that.
You're gonna see that thing over there.
Yeah. Like it tends to be how if I'm out doing a remote broadcast, it's like I'm going to make things as easy as possible for myself. If that means I'm being lazy, then so be it. Like this is already hard enough for me to do. I don't need to do anything to make it harder for me and then fuck something up. Which I already fucked something up trying to make it as easy as possible. I missed a break.
Right, because you had it.
Because the radio, despite the fact that this is a radio that's only ever going to be used for Minot broadcasts, number 2 on the presets is the station that we have up in a different town. And it happened to be playing like music, and I got all my wires crossed because it was playing music that we would have played today. Like, we do a segment on our country station called Throwback Thursday where the middle 2 songs are 2 90s country songs. And it was in that same spot, in that same group of songs, there was a 90s country song playing. It's like, oh, it's Throwback Thursday, but I forgot it was fucking Wednesday. And I'd forgotten that because I was doing the logs for Thursday earlier that day and had seen Throwback Thursday. So yeah, just got all my wires crossed, and then we had dead air, and I had to go
dead air
after a commercial break. So yeah, like I don't do anything to invite those sorts of events to happen. Like my number one priority is that everything just goes smooth. I'm not interested in adding any any more variables than are absolutely necessary.
Right.
That's just how I roll. I feel like that's how I do most things in my life. Just keep it to the minimum amount of variables. If there's an element that I cannot control or that can cause problems and I can get rid of it, I will do so.
I would have hated to have been your algebra teacher.
Yeah, you would have, because I was bad at algebra.
Well, yeah, too many variables.
Too many fucking variables. What do you mean I don't know what that is? Why can't someone just tell me what this variable is? It's like if you have the 3 sides of the triangle, like I always hated those like certain geometry problems where they tried to make it like a practical application of that problem,
right?
Where it's like, that this wooden beam is this long and this wooden beam is that long. How long is this wooden beam? And I'm like, if I was there, I could just fucking measure it. I don't need to figure it out by referencing the other 2. It's right there. I'll get my tape measure out and fucking measure the thing.
Oh, that's not the point.
I would God, I was so bad at math. It was consistently my worst subject. Like in almost every other subject in like junior high and high school, I was like an A or B student, and math, I always was a tenuous C.
Really?
Like I barely was. It's weird where, like, I guess I consider myself bad at math, but I still got into what counted for the more advanced classes, like in high school.
Right. You were in the advanced classes, but not doing well in them. Yeah,
I was definitely the worst student academically and grades wise in those classes.
Oh, this calculus 4 is hard.
Like, we were a tiny school, so we didn't have AP classes or anything like that, but we had like pre-calc and that sort of thing. And I don't remember what the alternative to pre-calc was, but I got into pre-calc. But my SAT, ACT, what fucking one do we take here? I never remember.
Take both. You should take both.
I don't think I had to take both.
Or the ASVAB. Or I don't know.
Maybe I did take both, but I don't think colleges look at both here.
I don't know. I never went to college here.
Yeah. I as far as I can remember, only one mattered. I think it was the ACT. Anyways, my math scores in that were bad enough that when I went to college, I had to take a separate test during the orientation fair or whatever the hell they have. I had to take a separate test in order to get into college algebra.
Oh, wow.
And if I had failed that one, I would have had to, I really wanted to pass that test because I didn't want to have to take more than one math class in college. And I passed it. And I barely passed college algebra, and I never took another math class because I have never been good at it, and I always fucking hated it. I don't know what it is. I feel like a lot of other things appeal to, like, I'm a relatively methodical person.
Right.
but it just doesn't. Math just never clicked in that way. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because I would think you would do well at math. You seem to be like a mathlete.
Nope.
No, I don't know.
I was always like a social studies and English sort of person. I think though, like especially junior high and high school social studies, it's basically just trivia is all that amounts to.
Right. Which you can do that.
I'm fucking great at that. I absorb little tidbits of knowledge like I'm a sponge. My brain is full of little tidbits of knowledge. Like that's easy. I never had to try at a single social studies class. I never studied once.
Or geography.
I never studied a single time for any social studies test throughout junior high and high school, and I always got an A. It's because it was just trivia. It's just remembering when a thing happened. Like, oh, that happened in 1870, or who's the historical figure that did this? It's like, oh, that was Alexander Graham Bell.
Where was the Treaty of Versailles signed?
Well,
at the bottom.
You see. I'm almost done with Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Yeah.
And by almost done, I mean I'm 99% done. It's just that the last 1% is ludicrously hard. I've insanely difficult.
The final boss situation is virtually impossible.
I started like the joke thing that popped into my head last night after about like an hour and a half of beating my head against the wall. I was like, I don't know if I have this dog in me. I don't know if I got that dog in me. I changed my build to something which did get me further than I had ever gotten before. So maybe I just need to keep trying with that. I did see what should be a hilarious joke build that actually seems to work incredibly well. It's really? the great horn or whatever that shoots the bubble as its Ash of War. Right. Like the gigantic horn that technically counts as a great hammer. If you do the doot that shoots the bubble out. I saw someone beat the boss fight with that in about a minute and a half. And it seemed really doable. Like they weren't even playing necessarily all that well. Like they got hit a bunch of times. Like they got hit a number of times. I was like, oh, that kind of looks like what happens when I play that. It's just when they had the space to use the Ash of War, it did an eighth of the health bar.
Really?
In one hit.
What the hell build is? You'll have to tell me later.
Yeah, it was like a holy build with. I think that's what that weapon in Ash of War scales off of. But I might have to try it. Like at this point, I just want to be done with Shadow of the Erd Tree, so I can go back to playing something that's more relaxing.
Yeah, something that's not so upsetting.
Like I love FromSoft games. I adore them, but they're you oscillate between extreme frustration and deep satisfaction.
Right.
That's the loop. Is being very frustrated that something is killing you so much, and then doing it enough that you figure it out. You overcome that hurdle,
and that's
it
satisfying.
Feels great. Yeah. It feels amazing. You get this gigantic endorphin rush. It's wonderful, and you repeat that over and over again for 100 hours.
It's a metaphor for life, really.
I suppose so, but it would be nice to go back to playing like Valheim for a bit or something, or like Deep Rock Galactic or something like that.
You know what I often have to do when I'm playing one of their games for an extended period of time? I have to go back to Stardew Valley.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about that the other day. It was like, I need like a really just easy, just really relaxing, just chill game to kind of recover from this. Like I think it'll probably be Valheim, but like Valheim's not necessarily an easy game, but it does have a pretty chill vibe most of the time.
Right. If
you're just like hanging out at your base and building and farming and stuff, it's usually pretty nice. I need to I need to detox from Elden Ring for a while. Although part of me is like, what if I did a new game plus run of the base game? What if I did that? Because I feel like there are a lot of bosses in the base game that now would feel like baby's first boss.
Right.
Compared to the ones in the fucking DLC, which is nuts because the bosses in the base game, a lot of them already felt fucking batshit insane compared to most earlier FromSoft games.
Yeah, at the time.
At the time,
yeah.
And it was 2 years ago, but like if you look at a number of. I'm trying to think of a particularly good example. Like Margit is weird because he doesn't move super fast, but his timing is so difficult to nail down.
Yeah.
Because he has so many like really delayed attacks that makes it very difficult. There are a number of bosses that are so aggressive and relentless, and you don't quite have the agility to deal with them the way that you might in like Bloodborne, which like Bloodborne has some really aggressive bosses, but you're also 10 times faster in Bloodborne.
Right.
You move so much quicker in Bloodborne compared to Elden Ring, which before this, that was the FromSoft game that I had played most recently was Bloodborne. And that like playing the DLC was making me go like, oh God, these bosses are more aggressive than Bloodborne, and I'm so much slower. But
I saw somebody do a comparison between the final boss in Shadow of the Erdtree and Melania, and they said Melania is way easier.
I agree.
Yeah, they did a mathematical comparison, and she'll hit you, or at least try to hit you, was it 16 times per 30 seconds?
Yeah. And
the boss in Shadow of the Erdtree will try to hit you 33 times in 30 seconds.
And the boss is not even necessarily that fast moving.
Right.
They're just very big and way more aggressive.
Right.
And it's very hard to avoid them. I watched a video of someone absolutely destroying Melania in a way that looked easy. It looked so easy. They were using like a particular greatsword with an Ash of War because she's really staggerable. Like she's not very big and she's not particularly beefy. So if you hit her with something heavy, she staggers. And she's pretty easy to poise break. I don't know if it's even possible to poise break the final boss of Shadow of the Erdtree. I don't think it is.
Right.
I'm going to have to fuck around basically and find something particularly broken to get me through. Cause like I said, I just want to be done with it, but I want to be done with it.
So you're going to fuck around and find out.
Yeah. Like I'm going to fuck around and find out if something works. Like I don't want to move on from the game until I have finished the DLC. Like I lost momentum on Bloodborne and never finished Bloodborne, because I took a massive break to play Baldur's Gate. And then I just didn't quite have the energy to sit and try and beat Orphan of Kos for 6 hours straight when I could be doing something else. Right. And so while I've got the desire for Elden Ring, I want to, I don't want to chicken out and not beat the final boss. I want to at least be able to say I've done that. And so I will use whatever methods I need to get that done. But we'll see what ends up becoming necessary. I don't know. You want to talk about Morbid Saint?
Sure.
So Morbid Saint is an American thrash metal band from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Sheboygan.
Oh, gosh. They're from Wisconsin.
Don't you know?
From Sheboygan. I don't know. That's just a northern Midwest accent. Yeah. I feel like it's probably more Nodak than anything, but
I don't know.
They're not that different.
No, they're not.
Like Red River Valley Minnesota, Wisconsin are ultimately not that different as far as the really thick accents go. They were founded back in 1984 and were active for about 10 years from 84 to 1994 before they went on a pretty lengthy hiatus, 1994 to 2010, and have kind of been back since 2010 and making music since then. The band consists currently, the lineup on this album consists of Jay Visser on guitar, also on guitar, Jim Forgrades, I don't know. Then we've got on vocals, Pat Lind, on bass, Bob Zabel, and on drums, DJ Bagamel. These feel like very Wisconsin names.
DJ.
That's DJ Bagamel. DJ Bag of Mail. Like Joey Bag of Donuts. DJ Bag of Mail.
He's scratching records and delivering envelopes.
Yeah. He's a mailman.
DJ Bag of Mail.
Or is the bag full of armor?
Oh, maybe.
It could be full of armor.
Sure.
Who knows? A bag of armor. That's a D&D item.
Yeah.
The bag of armor. You can pull out any piece of mundane armor. But it stinks.
Yeah.
It has a curse where it's real smelly. Anyway. They formed in 1984. They're probably most well known to thrash metal fans for their album Spectrum of Death, which came out in 1989. And as I said towards the beginning of the episode, that album is pretty well regarded among certain circles. At the very least, one of the better like extreme thrash metal albums of all time. Apparently, I can't personally verify that. I've never heard it, but
I have heard it, but it's been a long time.
Okay, maybe you'll need to revisit it.
Yeah.
And give it another listen. But this is their newest album. It came out in 2024. They had started writing it in 2022, and this came out on February 9th of 2024.
Right.
And it's a thrash metal album.
It is. It definitely is.
And it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But I don't have a ton to say about it. Is the thing. I enjoyed it. It's well made. It sounds good. The production is good. But also nothing on it particularly rock my socks off.
I mean, it's got great thrash guitar.
Yeah.
Got great thrash drums.
Got great thrash vocals.
Yeah.
But I feel like it maybe is slightly less than the sum of its parts. I don't know. Where nothing really stuck out to me to the degree that I just have 3 dots written down for my favorite song.
Yeah. My favorite. Well, I mean, if you want to just jump into
we
that,
can just jump ahead to it. That's all right.
I really like "Fuck Them All."
Fuck them all. Yeah. I guess the one thing that you and I were talking about a little bit is that the lyrics maybe feel a little dated, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like
this. It's dated as in dated for the listener. Like, these lyrics and the song titles and things like that be great for a really angry 14-year-old.
Sure. It's the sort of lyrics you would maybe expect from a band that is much younger.
Yeah. These guys are in their 50s.
Yeah. It's not like horribly juvenile or crass, but they're also not sophisticated or anything like that, which one can make the argument that depending upon the genre, that's not something to be expected.
Sure.
And at least for me, I feel like for most of the thrash metal I've listened to, I don't know if I've ever really listened to a thrash metal album that had particularly cerebral lyrics. Stuff that is maybe a little bit more crass tends to be the way that a lot of thrash metal is.
Right.
There is, thrash metal kind of emerged out of a bit of a fusion between heavy metal with a little bit of punk injected into it for the speed and the fuck you attitude.
Right.
And I feel like that sort of bled into the lyrics for the most part, depending upon the band. Some bands are darker and more theatrical, and some bands are more political and kind of in your face, go fuck yourself, man.
Yeah. Down with the
bands.
man. Yeah. And the album cover. I mean,
the album cover also, it looks. The first thing when I saw that, I was like, that looks like Roddy Piper.
It does look like Roddy Piper
a little bit. Like, I presume that's one of the members of the band, and that all of those faces are people in the band.
Roddy Piper is a member of the band. He's been dead for several years, but
unfortunately, he's been dead for a while.
He has.
He passed away in 2016, I think, because I'm fairly sure I was in Winnipeg when he died, which I believe he was from Winnipeg.
I think we all remember where we were
when Roddy Piper died. Yeah.
2015.
Yeah. Okay. It was 2015. Yeah. It was 2015. Because that would have been the fall of my sophomore year of college.
Right.
I was trying to, couldn't remember if that was 2015 or 16.
He's from Saskatoon.
Saskatoon. Okay. Not Winnipeg. But they're not very far apart.
They aren't. They're very similar, really. Oh, Winnipeg's a bigger town.
Winnipeg's, at least as far as I'm aware of, quite a bit bigger than Saskatoon is. But Winnipeg's nice.
I like Winnipeg.
I should go back to Winnipeg.
Last time I was in Winnipeg, my parents took me to see the Pope.
The Pope?
In Winnipeg.
Yes, you've told this story before.
Yeah.
Your family's not even Catholic, right?
Yeah, they're Catholic.
Oh, they're Catholic. Okay. For some reason, I thought part of the story was like, we went to see the Pope for some reason, even though we're not Catholic.
Right.
Which, I mean, to be fair, there is something to be, a given pope is an important global figure.
Sure.
There's kind of an interesting element to going to witness them pass by.
Right.
It's like royalty, coming through on a visit. You
sure.
You want to go see. Yeah.
Yeah. My family's the reason that the Pope rides around in a bulletproof vehicle. No.
You're the last holdout supporting the anti-pope, which was a thing, by the way.
Anti-pope?
It wasn't like a satanic pope. No, it was just there was a period of time in European history where the Catholic Church basically kind of split in half, and like half of them supported this person as the pope and believed that they were the legitimate choice, and the other half supported a different person as the pope. And one of them was based in Rome, and then the anti-pope was based somewhere else. So there were like two different popes that people thought were legitimate. And I don't remember precisely how that resolved, but eventually people came to an agreement that this, was the legitimate pope or something like that. I think it might have lasted for a while. I don't remember how long it lasted for. I don't remember exactly when. It might have been like the 1300s or something.
Is this how like Eastern Orthodox came to be?
No. That split I think was much earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was like briefly after the fall of the Western Roman Empire.
Oh wow.
Because the Eastern Orthodox Church is more closely associated with the Eastern Roman Empire.
Sure.
Because that's why the Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church uses Greek instead of Latin, because Greek was the language of the Byzantine Empire for the most part. But at least I think I'm correct about that. I might be wrong. That sounded right, and I remember thinking that's correct, but I might be wrong about that.
Okay. The Byzantines.
But anyway.
Morbid Saint.
Morbid Saint. Hey, we were talking about Christianity.
Sure.
These morbid saints.
Sure.
What else can be said about this album?
I recommend, if you like thrash metal, give it a listen.
Sure. I do remember thinking at a couple of points that the vocalist sounded like he was kind of straining to get those sounds out a little bit.
Right.
Like sounded a little aged, like it was a little difficult.
Well, he is a little aged,
and that is true.
And you know what he sounds like. He sort of modeled his vocal style after Mila Petroza.
What band is he from again? Creator, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I remember from when we listened to Creator, that sounds like it could be accurate. I mean, we already said, favorite songs and whatnot. I wasn't able to find a ton of I didn't get a good sample size for an average.
Yeah.
Like I only could find 3 reviews that seemed to be done by sites that are viewed by more than 10 people.
Yeah.
And those came out to about a 71.3. It seems like a lot of the usual suspects for websites and publications that tend to review metal albums. Pretty much all of them seem to have passed on this.
Really?
Like I didn't see anything from Sputnik. I didn't see anything from a lot of the magazines. Like Metal Sucks didn't review this. Like the only one that was a name I had remember really seeing before was Angry Metal Guy.
Okay.
And I guess Metal Storm as well was another one that I see some of the time. But like a lot of the other reviewers, like New Noise or Pitchfork. Pitchfork doesn't do a ton for most kinds of metal, but occasionally you'll see reviews on Pitchfork. But no, none of them really seemed to pick up on this. So yeah, 71.3 is what it came out to, which I have a hard time disagreeing with, where it's like that's still a positive review score.
Sure.
And this is still an album that I enjoyed listening to. I had a good time listening to it. But also there was nothing that made me go like, oh yeah, that's really good. I really like that. It was just like, yeah, it's a good thrash metal album.
Yeah.
So what metal are you bestowing upon this, like Maskanada to Chewbacca?
It's a silver.
Yeah, I agree. It's a silver. Like there's we sometimes you don't have a lot to say about something other than like, it's good.
Have you seen a picture of this band?
I've not. No.
You should look that up at some point.
Okay. I'll have to do that then. So next week, I already know for once what we're going to listen to because we discussed it last time. So we are going to finally, after having promised to listen to it multiple years ago, we are finally going to listen to LTE3. That's the third self-titled album by Liquid Tension Experiment, which is a prog metal supergroup consisting of 3 members of Dream Theater and Tony Levin from he's been in a lot of stuff, but principally King Crimson?
Peter Gabriel. Yeah, he was the replacement in the late 70s and early 80s for King Crimson. Yeah, bass player there. Enchantment stick player.
Yes, and so he with John Petrucci, Mike Portnoy, and Jordan Rudess. Which it's a fucking bonkers combo,
and it's full instrumental there.
Yeah, it's a totally instrumental band, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really good album, and I'm excited to talk about it with you.
I'm listening out on the way home
next week. Hell yeah. So until you hear from us, then why don't you go ahead and follow our pages on social media. That's Facebook or the website formerly known as Twitter, or why don't you use whatever podcast service you're listening to right now. Use that to subscribe to our feed. I said that a different way than I normally do, and it didn't really make sense, but you get it. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Cam.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations. That one was real quiet.
That was a neat.
It was little. It was a little.